Welcome to the What It Takes podcast, where we talk to successful entrepreneurs, leaders, and CEOs across different industries. I'm your host, Darren, and in each episode, we're going to figure out how they got through difficult times, but most importantly, what it really takes to succeed. So whether you're just starting out your career or you're looking to level up your business game, my goal is to give you real insights and practical lessons from people who have achieved what you want. All right, everyone, welcome back to the What It Takes podcast. I'm joined today by Angelica Bermudez, who has a very inspiring story. You came from Colombia, moved to the US, and your background is also something that is truly really inspiring to just go into. You moved to the US, started a cleaning business, and have built this up to become essentially very successful. So, Angelica, I'm very excited to talk to you today, to go through your journey and really hear more about your story. So, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Darren. And it is a pleasure and it's an honor for me to be here to share with you. I had the opportunity to meet you before, so very, very excited to, for the podcast, and also very exciting to be able to share our story and be an inspiration for others as well.
I'm very excited to dive into this. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do today? What is the cleaning business that you currently have?
Well, it actually evolved from cleaning.
Because it's pretty much full service now. You do a lot more than just that, right?
Yes. So we are a property maintenance system.
Hmm.
We work for the multifamily industry. This is our industry. We started as a cleaning in the multifamily industry, but now we have a whole system where we provide, a tool that it's able to help our property management companies and our service providers with the day-to-day maintenance for the property. So it's a larger scale than
Yeah.
cleaning, and it
Yeah.
had evolved over the years.
Yes. It's gotten pretty big now.
Yes.
And I'm very curious to talk more about your business, but I want to circle it back to the beginning where, because you grew up in Colombia. What was that like for you?
Well, I was born and raised in Colombia, low income family, but just, with a dad and a mom and two sisters.
Hmm.
And, my father was a very entrepreneurial. He had an entrepreneurial spirit, but, he environment is different in Colombia. I guess the opportunities are not as big as in United States. And
Hmm.
so he tried a lot of different things to do in life. However, I guess he didn't have the mindset to make it a business, to become a big business versus becoming a self-employed, or all the
Hmm.
inventions that he had, all the things that he wanted to do. Unfortunately, my dad died when I was 14 years old, and it was my mom left
Hmm.
with three girls, that she had to raise. My mom didn't have enough, as she didn't finish high school. Back then it was more like the mom had to take care of the kids at home and the dad was the one working. So my mom had to face, and I had to face that when I was 14 years old, being left with nothing and having to start a new life without a dad that was the
Hmm.
provider. So maybe that was the reason why I wanted to move to United States. I don't know why it came to my mind. I want to do something big. I want to help my mom. I want to help my family. I want to support them because I'm the oldest one, so maybe that was that,
Yeah.
by
You felt a
instinct.
level of responsibility there.
Yes, by
Yeah.
instinct, like I have to support my family. And I know it was hard. We went through very hard moments, without my dad.
Hmm.
A lot, family were helping us, were supporting us financially, because we didn't have the means. My mom wasn't working, so she had to start working, and she was doing things that, were not enough to support three girls, by
Hmm.
herself. So the opportunity came when I was able to move to United States when I was 21 years old, 22
Hmm.
years old. And I just have a determination to help my family. I wanted to give my mom back everything that she did for what she had to go through in life, to to help us grow. And even she helped me go to college. She was supporting me to go to college and have an education. She had that in mind, like I need to give my girls what she didn't have so we wouldn't suffer in the future
Mm,
the same way.
sounds like
So
a great mother.
yes, great mother. My mom is an inspiration. She's a very hardworking person. So she taught us a lot of values of, hardworking, like doing things with pride. Like whatever you do it
Mm,
right, do it with passion, do it well. It doesn't matter
mm,
what you do, just do it right. And that's why maybe, that is actually one of the biggest treasures that I have, because that is what I have taken in my life journey.
mm.
To now, everything we do it with pride, and we do it right. It doesn't matter
And
what it
so,
is.
and so you were in Colombia and you thought to yourself, I need to provide for my family. I want to do something big. Because you went to the US to study, was it not?
No, I came to United States to work.
To work. And
Yes, to work.
when you decided to come to the United States to work, did you have a plan? Did you say I'm going to do this or this or this, or were you more like, you know what, I'm going to figure it out once I get there?
Yeah, I mean, on my mind, it was just, I have to make money. I have to make
Mm,
money to support my mom and my sisters that they were left here. And I didn't have a plan specifically. I didn't know what I was going to do. All I knew is that I needed to improve my life, and
mm,
I wanted to do, big things. I didn't know what a
yeah,
big thing meant at that time either, because, when you're so young, you just think of money is the solution for everything. So in my mind was like, I'm gonna make money and
yeah,
I want to
yeah,
work
yeah.
hard. I'm gonna work hard to, to
But
support my
I
family.
think I think that's beautiful because I think there's a lot of young people today that, they're unsure about what they want to do, right? And a lot of the times you hear people say you need to have a plan, 20-year, 30-year plan, 10-year business plan, but very often they don't know. They don't know what direction they're going to go in. And it kind of shows that you don't need a plan to become successful, right? But you need to take that first step. Was it scary for you to move? Were you reluctant? Was there any feeling of like, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do this? What was that like for you?
I just was determined, and I can say to, even not even for the young generations, for everybody that it's making a big decision to do something different in their lives. You
Mm,
just have to have one reason to do it. For
mm,
me, it was my family. I had no choice and I wanted to do it. I made that decision. I wanted to support my family. And that was it. That was all in my mind. And I was willing to overcome any challenges or any sacrifices to accomplish that. And
mm,
because of that, then I was able, my dream became bigger. When I was able to support in a way, then I wanted to do something more, because it never
mm,
stops, right? Like as a human being, we're always evolving and we're always looking to do something better and
yeah.
bigger, not from the ego, from the ego perspective, but from evolution and from
Mm,
being able to help more people. Because when you get to a certain point, then now you have a responsibility to continue growing. You
mm,
cannot stop. So
mm,
just have one reason, a very strong reason to do it. Is it your
mm,
future? Maybe you don't have to support family as I had to, but maybe, you just have a reason, a purpose in life. Do I want to help people with my talent? Do I want to
mm,
make other people's life better with my service? What is
yeah.
it, the purpose, the passion that you have? And stick with it, because things are going to open up. You
Mm,
don't have to have it figured out completely when you're starting. So it's just the persistence of maintaining that reason alive.
amazing. And so you moved to the US, you have this determination of I'm going to provide for my family, I'm going to support them, I'm going to make money. How did you get into entrepreneurship? How did you start your business? What was that like? How did that journey
Yes.
look like?
So it was funny, because when I moved to United States, or even when I was in Colombia, I did not want to do any businesses. Like I wanted an employment, a secure
Mm,
employment.
yeah,
Only
yeah.
because I told you my dad was an entrepreneurial, but he never did it in a way that it was a system, a business. So, we never had money, or we had, it was hard to make means.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was like, I don't want this, I don't want this. It's not as stable. Like, there's not a steady income all the time. Like, we could have highs then lows. Like, I wanted to have a steady income, and have a better quality of life.
Mm.
So I was, determined that I wanted to be an employee, and grow up in a corporate
Mm.
environment. So when I moved to United States, I said I want to have a good employment. I want to have a good job, and I started working for Chase. That was my
Mm.
first job. I didn't have good English. I don't even know how I passed my interviews, because I was just like, barely speaking English, but I was in a location that they needed a bilingual teller. And that's how I
Mm.
started. And my vision was to become a branch manager, go up all the levels. That was how I visioned myself. Then I met my husband, and he
Mm.
was also a very entrepreneurial person, like my dad. But the
Yeah.
same thing, it was like, okay, I do something here, I do something here, nothing is structured. I
Mm.
guess it was meant for us to be together,
Mm.
because I was able to apply my organizational skills, my administration skills, administrative skills. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
and with his vision, with his passion. And I was very reluctant. Like, I was like, I don't want to do any businesses. I want a steady income. But then he was so passionate about the possibility of being business owners and doing something big, that I guess we started fusioning our skills. And because we also had the determination to have a family, that's how we really
Mm.
started our business. We moved to
Mm.
from New York to Tampa, and we were ready to have a family, but we said, okay, if we're going to have a family, we're going to raise them and we're going to be with them. The only way to do is to really have our own business, to have the freedom to be with them and manage our own time. So that's
Mm.
how it clicked for me at that time. Like, okay, we really need to, to create a business. And we started a cleaning business. That was the easiest thing to do. And
Mm.
my husband didn't have any background. He never liked to go to school. He finished high school, like barely finished high school. Like, he can't handle being in a school environment. He's all
Yeah.
about creating and doing this. And so he didn't have the background. So cleaning was like the only thing that we could do, that we could both start a business at. And being immigrants and being Latinos, and that was like the thing that you do when you come to United States to
That's
start a business.
amazing. So yeah, so you met your husband in New York while you worked at Chase, and
Yes.
you both shared, well, not you didn't share the vision of entrepreneurship in the beginning, but then you saw his passion and you became, you said, well, this can actually work, but then you also had that family aspect that worked so well together, right? To have that freedom. And so you started your cleaning business. And what was that like for you in the beginning? Did you just clean doors? Did you clean buildings? So
Yes.
what kind of cleaning did you guys do?
So it was when we moved to Tampa. There was my husband's uncle was here, and he had a cleaning business, very small
Hmm.
cleaning business. He was cleaning some, attorney's office, some, offices at night.
Mm.
Um, and that was kind of like our opportunity to start a business.
Mm.
And, we bought it. We bought the business. I think it was a little overpriced at that
Mm.
time. We didn't have any money at
Yeah.
all. And it was a business that it was managed by him. So at the time that we actually bought the business and we started, we lost like half of the accounts. But we had
Mm.
already bought it. That's what happens when you don't have a structure of the business. The people believed just in you, not in the
Yeah.
service that you're providing. So half
Yes.
of those accounts left because they wanted the other person to be
Mm.
who was in charge. We did have like that was I think it was like $35,000 that we paid. We didn't have the money, so we borrowed it. So we started a business with a negative income, and
Mm.
also I mean, we were in debt. Like, we needed to pay that $35,000 back. That's like 14 years ago, and it was a lot. It was a lot for us. So
Yeah. Especially in the beginning, I can imagine.
yes,
Yeah.
so I was working for Chase still as a personal banker, and my husband was taking care of the cleaning business. Then, our daughter came, that was actually, he was working for his dad, for his uncle, while I was working for Chase. So then the opportunity came for us to buy the business. So I was still working for Chase, and my husband was going to take care of the cleaning business while I was at Chase. However, my daughter was born, Maya, our firstborn, and now she's 13 years old. But at that time, the idea was for me to stay at Chase and he was with the business. But then when I was in maternity leave, and I think I always say this, that because of that brave decision that we make at that time, that's where we are right now. Because, everything is kind of like a ripple effect of the good or bad decisions, right? So that decision, I was on maternity leave. We were living out of my income because the business was not making any money at all. We were in the negative completely. So then I had to come back to Chase, and I was like, how are we going to do it? I mean, who is going to take care of our daughter? And the reason why we moved is because we wanted to raise our kids. So my husband and I sat down together, and we were like, we were crying, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to take her to a daycare for 9 hours a day? Like, we're barely going to see her and raise her. And then we just pray and we said, that's it. We just have to make this decision. I had to quit Chase and and be with the business. So at that point, we said this business is going to have to make it. We're going to have to make it happen, no matter how. We don't know how, but we're going to raise our kids. And that was like the bravest decision, because at that point we had no income. It was like no income from Chase. I called my manager and said, I'm not going to come back. I'm not coming back after my maternity leave. I'm going to stay with my daughter. And my husband was working like 18 hours a day, to be honest, because I was in the house with my daughter, taking care of her. And I was just cooking and preparing and taking care of him so he could go to work and support for the both of us, until I had a little bit more freedom to start helping him and put our daughter into a daycare only for 3 hours a day. So I was able to help him during those 3 hours. So it was a brave decision with no money at all, no income, and I quit my job because
And
I
how
knew
long,
it
yeah, how
happened.
long was that moment or period of struggle for you? When did your business start to get to the point where you had a little bit more freedom? How many
Wow,
months or years did that take?
years. It took
Years.
years. Years.
Mm,
I can say that we had financially better from 2000, maybe like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, that we were still like making it happen, like learning how to grow, because as you grow, it takes more resources. When we
mm,
actually made the decision to invest on our business to make it bigger and grow it, so lack of cash flow. But
mm,
at the beginning, it was that we couldn't even pay our rent. Just
mm.
couldn't pay it. I mean, we always were
Yeah.
paying our rent late, and we were always paying the late fee for the community. That we never paid our rent on time. We couldn't even pay our employees. Like, it was hard. There was a moment, a story that is this is at the second situation where we actually said, this is going to be big, and
Mm,
God is with us, and this is what God wants, and we're going to have to continue obeying what the purpose for our life is. We didn't have any money to pay our employees, and we have to pay like $7,000,
mm,
and we have no money in the bank. We couldn't lie to them anymore. Like, okay, we're gonna have money, it's gonna come. We couldn't lie. We gave them the checks, and we said, let's pray something is gonna have to happen, because we couldn't. I mean, nobody was gonna. We couldn't borrow more money from anybody else. Like, it was that point where there's no more other places that you can knock on the door and ask for money. That was it. So it was my husband and I in the kitchen, and we were like, what are we gonna do? But we're gonna pay them. We knew that we were going to pay them. And I found a little piece of flyer for those private financial companies that they lend you money. And I said, I mean, let's call, but I mean, they're not gonna lend us money. Our credits were very bad. Like, we have no assets, nothing that they could borrow us against. and this is $7,000. And then I called and I told them, I mean, we don't have anything. What can you do for us? And they said, do you have a car, a vehicle, or something that maybe we can use as collateral? And we did have a car that we were paying to a friend. And she said, yeah, I can use it. And she said, if you can be here in an hour, we can lend you $7,000. So we were
Mm.
so happy, so excited. We're like, oh my God, this is just a miracle. So we drove like an hour from Tampa to get to this place. They were able to use our car as a collateral to give us the $7,000. They gave us the money that day, and it was Chase Bank and Wells Fargo Bank. Our
Mm.
account was with Chase. So
Mm.
we were able to get the check from Wells Fargo and go across the street to Chase to cash it and put it in our account. And it was like 5 p.m. There was no other way that we could have made it if it wasn't for this miracle. And we were at the parking lot of that place outside Chase, and we said, this is it. I mean, we were just seconds of being bankrupt and having
Yeah.
to close our business because that was the only chance we had. That happened, and we said, you know what, from now on, we're gonna do whatever it takes to make this a bigger business, because if God wants us to stay here, it is because he really knows that we're going to help a lot of people in our way. So that's how we actually kind of strengthen our faith at that moment. And we said, we close our eyes and we just continue working. We're like,
Yeah. Wow.
whatever we needed to do,
Wow.
we did it. I mean,
It's
that's it.
incredible, Yeah, it's incredible to kind of, you had a level of persistence and you looked for signs, you looked for opportunities. How is this going to happen? You come across that leaflet, do the call, and thankfully you had the car that you could use as collateral there. And, one key thing that I'm hearing here as well, because I wanted to ask you a little bit about what kept you going, right? Despite this hard time, why not just go back to Chase? Because you're putting yourself through a lot of challenges, right? A lot of tough times. Was the temptation ever there to go back to Chase? Did you ever consider it?
Yes, a lot of times, but not until the day that I just shared with you, that
Mm.
I said, this is it. My
Mm.
husband couldn't make it without me, and I couldn't make it without him. So
Mm.
it was the two of us that needed to really have, he always had the faith, he always had the
Mm.
vision. But I was, as a woman, the provide, like the one that protects, the protector of the
Mm.
family. There were times that we didn't have enough money to even buy groceries, and we were just using whatever resources. Our bank account was in the negative for days. Like, it was in the negative, we were paying our people, then the account, it was in negative. And then we were like, okay, we have more checks coming in from our customers, but if we put it in our checking account, it's gonna go, it's gonna cover the negative. We're gonna be end up with zero. So we will deposit it into our savings accounts and take it back right away before the bank will transfer it toward the negative. And we did everything. I mean, we jiggled with everything we could.
Yeah, yeah.
We were buying gift cards at the grocery, at the maybe Walmart, and then we could buy gas, or we could buy groceries with that. Yes, there were so many times for so many years that we didn't have enough money to cover for our basic needs, right? Like, you have the peace of mind that you have rent, you have food,
Mm.
you have how to pay for gas, you paying your employees. But not until that moment, my faith is, I guess that it was the moment where God told me, this is it. I mean,
Mm.
I'm giving you a last sign, and this is, you either have to take it 100% or go back.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I took it that time
I
because
mean,
it was.
I'm hearing this right now, and it's like a lot of people who would have gone through what you would have gone through would have quit, right? And the thing that kept you going, the recurring theme is family,
Yes.
right? Like you probably thought about your family from in Colombia. It's like to provide and help them. But then now at this stage, you as well have your own family. You have a daughter, Maya, right, that you have to
And
take
a
care of.
son.
And a son at this time, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing that this was the driving force, right? To sort of provide for them and to give them a better future.
Yes, yes. And then it
Mm,
came a second phase, right?
mm,
Of
mm,
purpose driven business. Um, Around 2015, when my son was born, everything that we did, that we were like creating and looking for opportunities, is starting to pop up, right? So in 2015, it was the busiest time for us. Like a lot of customers, a lot of multifamily buildings were built and open, and we had a lot of work to do, a lot. Also, my mother-in-law, she came to help me from Colombia,
mm.
with
Okay.
my son was born, and
Yeah.
unfortunately she had a stroke. Right
Oh.
after my son was born, she had a stroke, and then we were actually kind of catching up with our negative balance, right? Like we were always in the negative every month cash flow, and then we were kind of catching up because we had a lot of businesses coming in, but then we have to take care of my mother-in-law. And at that time we said, do I stop working and take care of her, or what are we gonna do? And then we said, we're gonna have to start in the negative again, look for help to take care of her at home, like a full nurse and somebody to take care of her, because she was on bed completely, that
Mm,
she couldn't do anything. And we said, okay, here we go again. We're gonna have to make it happen, because now
yeah.
we have my mother-in-law that was at home sick, and I couldn't help her, I couldn't take care of her, my husband couldn't. We have two kids now and a business that was blooming and had to pay. So the money that we didn't have, we start now, okay, let's pay for somebody to take care of her. And we took
Mm,
care of her for almost 7 years until she passed away. And but that determination again. So in 2015, the second phase of the business starts. We're big, we've had a lot of businesses, but now we had a lot of people that were working for us, a lot of
mm,
people, a lot of immigrants that were coming to us, like, with the heartbroken stories, of their lives, like, how they came to United States, like how who they needed to help in Colombia or their countries, and how they needed to work here. So it became for us also kind of like a mission, like we're gonna help them. I mean, we're gonna give them work. And we used to sit down with them and say, how much do you need to make means, for your family every month? How much do you need a month, to support your family here? And they will give us a number, $2,000, $3,000 a month. And mm, just because we were focusing on helping them, like providing work for them, businesses will start coming again. Like,
mm.
okay, so a new building was open. Okay, we're gonna put you guys in this building. You're going to clean these buildings. You're going to paint this building, and magically enough, they were able to make the $3,000 that they needed a month for their
Amazing.
family. So it became our second um, mission. Our family was already taken care of now, but now we couldn't not help them. Like, we were helping them. We were, people were coming to us in a bicycle to clean. They
Yeah,
didn't even
yeah.
have a car. They didn't have anything. And we were
Mm,
give them work, and then we will teach them how to make a
mm,
business, how to build a business. And they became service providers of us. Like the majority of our service providers now, they started as employees of us, doing cleaning, painting, and now they have their own businesses built with people that they are helping. There's a story that is very beautiful for one of the companies that work with us. She's the one that was coming to clean in a bicycle every day, and
okay.
now she still has that bicycle. And she told us the other day that she uses that bicycle to borrow it to other people that don't even have a bicycle to go to clean for her. So
Mm,
it's like the ripple effect, right? Like we help them, now they're business owners, but now they're helping the people that are coming with nothing, looking for a job. So that
mm,
kept us going and kept us growing, because we could not let the big community that we had already helped, you know, let down. Like we needed to continue growing, to have more work. So it wasn't about selling more, it was about having more work for them. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how we kept on growing, and I guess that's part of our success as well.
Yeah, so I mean, your focus, you were able to shift not just to provide for your family, but you extended that. How can you help other families as well, right? To provide that support. And so, because walk me through the evolution of your business, because I mean, your husband and yourself, you cleaned yourself, no? In the
Yes,
beginning.
yes,
And
yes,
then you got to the point where you were able to hire a few people to do a little bit of cleaning for you or at least help you. And
yes.
then how did you grow? How did your service expand over the years? How did that look like?
Well, it expanded because we knew what this, we started to understand the multifamily at that time, right? At the beginning,
Mm,
it was just a building that we were hired to clean, but
hmm.
it was just a business. It was a building. We did not know there was such a thing as multifamily industry, but we were
Yeah.
in one. So, and we still have the first building that we clean. We still have it up to date. We know we still do services
Oh,
for them. Absolutely, yes.
that's
And
great client retention right there.
yes, 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 absolutely. It's very high. It's very high.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we didn't know, we were just being called, there's a new building opening. I mean, they want you guys to come. Like the owners want the same cleaning company to come to this building, So it was just going like that until we became experts on multifamily industry in cleaning. But when we were in the buildings, we noticed there was so much than just cleaning the common areas of the property.
Mm,
So we understood there was make readies for the units, painting, maintenance, everything. And since we have a lot of people that were already working with us, and we were very, I mean, I guess this is one of the things that kept us who we are as a company still. And we always say yes to anything that our clients needed. So if they were like, do you think that you can do this? We're like, yes. We didn't know how, but we found the person that was able to do it, or we found the resources, or we found the way to do it. It was
mm,
it was kind of like our driver, like if they wanted something, we will always help them because we did not want them to fail, right?
mm,
And they will ask us for something, we'll do it. And that's how all of our services started, actually. Do you think you can do this? Yes, we can. We figured out, and then it became a service that we offer to other properties too.
mm,
So that's how we expanded from cleaning to so many other services just because we were willing to say yes to the property management companies, to the managers on site, to the maintenance guys on site that were, dealing and struggling with,
yeah.
doing things that they needed to do for their property, but they didn't have all the resources we had as hundreds of people behind us to do things. Even we started with the events because the property managers do events for the residents. And we saw managers like handing food. And we're like, they shouldn't be doing this. Like, what are they
Yeah,
handing food? They shouldn't. And then,
yeah.
we had somebody in our team that was a chef. We said, should we can we make a event, can we make events catering for the properties? She said yes. And then from nothing we started with the events.
Mm,
So we do everything from cleaning to a resident event to project capital projects for the properties, like everything in between, pressure washing. So
amazing.
that's how we expand. But then as we were growing, we had a lot of operational, challenges basically.
Hmm.
So we created our own software. We started to build our own software because there was no app out there that could help us manage all of those different services, all of those, the diversity of what we did. So we needed to have our own software and we started building it. But then we realized that we had so much knowledge of the industry, of the maintenance world in the multifamily, that we were building something that could actually be a service for property management companies as well.
Mm,
So that's how we switch from being just a service company that do maintenance services to become a property maintenance system. So
mm,
we are looking to always innovate and do things that we can actually help our industry better.
mm,
So for maintenance, to a system. That's where we at right now at this point, in with our company.
Incredible journey, a really incredible journey, Angelica. I mean, your evolution is very inspiring as well as, and I think that the one thing that because one thing that is very common amongst entrepreneurs is that passion. It's that red thread, right, of passion that everyone has their own unique driving force. And for you, it was families. And to see the ripple effects that you had on others over the years is truly incredible. The one thing that regarding family, of course, is you had a business with your husband. And
Hmm.
how do you balance work with family when you're doing it with your partner or your husband? How does that, is that a challenge for you? Is that,
Of
how does that
course.
go?
Yes, it was very challenging. Very, very,
Uh,
very challenging. There was a lot of times that we were getting a divorce, like we can't deal with this anymore, or I was quitting the business, or he was quitting the business, like you do it yourself, like, gone, I leave, like so many times, repetitive. Because when there's no money, when there is no resources, and you're just struggling every day with everything, it gets hard. I mean,
mm,
even if you have so much love for each other, it is hard. I mean, if you don't have how to pay your rent, it's not easy to manage between couples.
yeah.
I have a way of seeing things, he has a different way of seeing things. I guess for the first years of the company, if it wasn't for his for being very determined, and the vision that he saw that I didn't see at that time, he saw things that we're now doing, and I
Right.
didn't see them before. So I learned to have respect for him. And it came a time that everything that he did, that it was like, like just pushing and breaking through, and, with nothing. Now it became, but it is
Mm,
the time now where I am the CEO, because I have the organizational skills to continue moving the company forward, because it's not
mm,
more like on the survival mood that we had before. Like we were creating 100 things at the same time. Now we are structured, and that's why I'm the CEO now, where he's now our business developer,
mm.
for Essencia. Now we don't fight as much. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah. So
much.
so the fighting was typically when things were tough, right? Because it's
Yes,
and I can
yes,
I can understand that, right? Like it's easy to blame each other and think about like, oh, you're not doing enough or this and that when
yes.
things are hard because you need that outlet. But once things are better, it's not so much of a, you don't have that anymore.
Yes, so we survived. We survived. I myself had to educate myself a lot on how to deal with a relationship. So education
Mm,
also is key for everything. I was reading books like, how to have a perfect marriage, like things like that, because it was hard. I was his partner. We were like this, we're leaders, by nature, and we always want to have our way of seeing things to be the correct one. And so I was educating myself in all different ways: how to be a leader, how to be a
yeah.
wife, how to be a mom. And we survived. And now, we have, I guess, as we had a lot of people help us in the administration side. So it wasn't me asking him for things, it was other people. So we have some filters. So we don't have to
Mm,
fight anymore, because it didn't come from me, requesting, or, like accusing him of something. It was somebody else. So it wasn't me.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we had so much filters now that we have different departments. So we don't have to deal with day-to-day decisions anymore together.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
And I
it
think, Angelic, you're also one of the few, I have a few more coming on soon, but one of the first females, women that I've had on the podcast. And one thing that I think is beautiful is that you've been able to essentially succeed while still having a family. And I think that a lot of people in our society today will look
yeah.
at a woman and think, no, she needs to be, the provider, she needs to be at home, she needs to, has there been any challenge in terms of how people view that? Or have you been like, no, there hasn't been any issues, or, but have you felt that? Has that
Well,
come up?
I don't think as much of issues that I face like being a CEO or being in the business. I think that the challenge is actually trying to balance both, because
Mm,
by nature, we are gifted to, as women, to provide certain things for our family, right?
mm,
Men are gifted to provide other things for our family. So for our kids, like I am the one that is always watching that things are being done, that we are creating a great environment for them in all different aspects. Like we are the ones that are, I'm the one that are looking out for their homework. Because, like if they do it with my husband will say, okay, if you don't know it, you don't know it. But then I am the one like taking the time, like, okay, no, let's do it, let's read it well. And,
yeah,
if you don't want to do it, he'll say, like, okay, if you don't want to do it, it's your problem. Then if you go to school, you have to do with your teacher. But I'm not like that,
yeah.
So I guess that's the challenge, because he's so good at some things, but he's not good at some other things, and I'm so good at some things. So we're kind of balancing how we can always provide for our kids in the best of our ability, like what we can do
Mm,
personally. But I think the key that it's a problem for a lot of women that are working is that we have to set boundaries, and we
mm,
have to actually have values for our family and for our business. Like we have them very clear, we have them, like very strong values, that we know what is negotiable and what is not negotiable. So it is
mm,
harder, it takes more time, it takes more effort, because we're always looking up to protect those values. So I'll give you an
mm,
example. My kids are 10 years old and my daughter is 13 years old. They don't have a cell phone, and
mm,
they don't even have an iPad. I mean, they don't have electronics that to entertain themselves. So because they're bored, okay, they can use a cell phone. They don't
I
have it.
support that.
Yes, and it is harder. It takes more effort, but you always, because it's not negotiable for us, we have to look for ways to make it happen, to be more attractive than a cell phone, to be more
Mm,
attractive than social media, and all those things that the kids are, just being distracted by. So, for example, we go to tournaments for soccer with our son, or volleyball with our daughter, and when we are in between games, all those kids are with a cell phone. Like all of my
mm,
kids' friends have a cell phone.
mm,
It's amazing. And so we got to those moments where they all have a cell phone. And what my husband and I do, we bring board games. We bring games, like real games, and we sit with those kids and we start playing. We get them out of their cell phones, because my kids don't have it. So what happens, they get separated because all of the
mm,
kids have a cell phone. So my kids are sitting by themselves and not being able to play with any kids because they're all with their cell phone.
mm,
So what could be a choice? Okay, let's give them a cell phone so they can be entertained or they're not bored. No, we are doing the hardest way. Let's bring games, let's bring things to the game so they can play with our kids. And it's amazing how much a kid, just by curiosity, they start getting interested. Or what are you doing, what are you playing? So when we don't even realize that, we have a lot of kids playing with us and they're not with their cell phones. So
mm,
it's not negotiable for us. So we have to do what we have to do. Like my weekends with my kids, we have a lot of kids over in my house. Like we
mm.
always have kids over, because we don't want them to be not playing. So we bring kids and we have them all play together at home. It takes more time, it
So,
takes more effort, you
so
know?
when it comes to the no cell phone, I mean, I support that, but I'm curious to understand your perspective. How do you view that, and why don't you let your kids use social media and a cell phone when all of their
Because
other friends are doing it?
at this age, they don't need it. They don't
Mm,
need it. They're still in a developing phase. Even my 13-year-old, you don't even know how much of a social person she is and compassionate she is. And my son, just because they're not, and they're kind of very realistic, right? Like they see life as it is, not as because they're
mm,
following other people's lives, and because they look to be, fantastic lives. They're very happy to what they have, because they're not comparing all the time. They're not
mm,
distracted. I'm not against technology, I'm against the distraction that it creates for them. So at this age,
mm.
they don't know how to balance it. They don't know how to manage it properly, because we can do social media, but we have so much other things that we are responsible for, that we're not going to let our time wasted in just social
Yeah,
media.
yeah,
But our
yeah.
kids can. At this age, they can't. So
No,
that
I
is the
think,
only
yeah,
thing.
I think what you're saying is spot on there. I think, one of the biggest challenges that I see young people have is that they think that they're not worth enough. And a lot of that, and I work with a lot of young people. I do weekly courses where I meet youth that want to get out in jobs. And a lot of them say, I want to become a millionaire. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why do you want to become a millionaire? And it's, oh, because I see this guy on social media. He drives a Lamborghini and he's like all this, vacation homes and this and that. And I'm like, well, is it really what you want? Because what ends up happening with a lot of young people today is that they end up feeling like they're not enough because they try or they might start something and they fail and it's just not for them. But then
Yes.
they compare themselves to others. It's like, why can't I do it? Why can this person do it and not me? And I think what you're doing there is an amazing thing because you're also inspiring the other youth that
Yes.
are with your children again, right? To be
Exactly.
more interactive in the well, essentially in the real world, right? But
I
not to
know.
digress a little, I was just very curious to hear about that as well as your how you balance being a woman in leadership while also having a family, as I do know that this has been an issue when it comes to making that choice, right? Because a lot of women will go on a career and then they will think I'm going to have a family and it stops them from advancing because they're not able to put in the same amount of hours in a typical 9 to 5 job. But obviously when you're an entrepreneur, you have a lot more flexibility. And I think that is the beauty of entrepreneurship because you are able to sort of design the life that you want,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And
But it
and and,
takes
and that
time.
freedom. It takes
It takes
time.
time,
That's
Darren,
that's
to
that's the
get to that
cost.
freedom, because we
That's the
all
cost.
we all as entrepreneurs, we think, okay, I quit my job, I'm going to have my freedom. No, it doesn't work like that way. You end up working a lot more hours than if you were in a 9 to 5 job.
Mm,
But it gets there. So it's a
mm,
designing, it's not
mm,
something that happens overnight. And a lot of people, I think they quit their dream of being a business owner because of that. Because then they realize they're working a lot more, like they don't have time for their family, and they don't even have time for their own life, and so they quit. But then it's just a time when you have to sacrifice a lot, but then the reward comes.
mm,
I remember my beginning of the years, a lot of the time I used to work. I mean, I think I only slept like 4 hours, but
mm,
I was in the building process. But since I didn't not want to have time for my kids, I used to wake up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes, 3 a.m., and to work until 7 a.m. when I have to get my kids ready. Then they went to school, and then when they come back, I will be with them for their homework and be with them. And after I put them to sleep, I will work again. So my meetings used to be at 9 p.m., at 10 p.m., because that was the time where my kids were not awake. So it takes a lot from you. It just have to be determined that if you want to be with your family, you have to sacrifice and work it around their schedule to make it happen. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% all the time, but if you have if you have in your heart that you are doing the right thing and you're building both things at the same time, not failing one for other, it will come. The time will
mm,
come when you have the freedom, the design.
mm, mm.
It's there, like you have the design your schedule, like you do everything you want, but it takes time to build it. So,
Definitely, definitely.
mhm.
And so moving forward again back to your business, you are now doing quite a lot, right? Full service. You have software. You still do the cleaning, but you do
Yeah.
everything as well. Like you, what are some important things that are going to be your focus moving forward for your business? What is, the next your vision for the business?
Yes. So our vision is to have our system to be the most effective and efficient system for the multifamily industry. We are really in a mission to change or to transform the multifamily industry in the maintenance aspect, right?
Mm.
We're building a system that will be the system that helps the property management companies manage their maintenance of the building.
Mm.
A lot of other, we are actually covering an aspect of the maintenance. A lot of other companies are working with the maintenance guys, with the in-house staff, to make it easier for them in the maintenance world. Our job is to work in everything in the maintenance world that's got to be contracted out, like with service providers. So that's why our
Mm.
system, it actually has two worlds, the property
Mm.
management side and the service provider side. And since we started as cleaner and we know everything that goes on in the field, our
Mm.
system is also designed to help our service providers, be better, more efficient, have more work without the workload of
Yeah.
the back office. We want to make it easier for them. And as Essentia, we are in charge or making sure that everything from a small request that the property has gets completed with our service providers. So we are creating something very big for the industry. Our next step, is actually expand to all of the other markets in the Florida multifamily markets and to go nationwide. That will be our third step. And other of the priorities that we have is to actually also build a very strong business support for our service providers. So not just giving them work, but making it easier for them, also educate them, how to grow, how to be a healthier business, how to employ people, how to do all those things, taxes,
Yeah.
advising, all the different aspects that you have to learn when you're growing a business. And it's hard to kind of know everything, but that's another aspect of what we're doing. We made it this year to the in 5,000, the fastest growing companies in United States.
Yes, I was going to ask you. I saw
Oh,
the
yes.
the
Yes.
E5000. That's amazing. Congratulations.
So we're very proud. We want to continue making the lists.
Yeah.
Definitely, we have the bar is high, and there's so many things. I mean, we're working implementing AI with our business. A lot of different things that we are improving in all sides. Being a better solution for our property management companies, but also a great support for our service providers.
That's amazing. And I think that what you're doing there with the growth, as well as implementing AI, because a lot of, when you want to grow, a lot of it is just trying to, how do you make things more efficient? How do you make things systemized, optimized? Well, that's one thing that I wanted to ask you about as well, because one thing for you is, you mentioned you were not against technology, but in your business, you have a strong focus on the human aspect, don't you?
Yes.
What
Yes.
does that maintaining that human element for you in your service offerings mean in a tech-driven world? How do you give that level of human in your business without it
Yes.
becoming too transactional, I would say?
Exactly, yes. So we embrace technology. Our backgrounds are not definitely in technology at all.
Hmm.
We started cleaning and mopping
Mm.
and sweeping, no background at all. However, we know technology is a tool to help businesses scale.
Mm.
And but there is also a point where technology is always going to be lacking what we as humans are able to offer. So
Mm.
the way that we embrace technology at Essentia is that everything that is repetitive in an administration side, accounting, like, operational side, everything that is repetitive, we want to use technology to systemize it, to have technology do it. There's so many resources now, but then we want our people to focus on the relationship with our clients, the relationship
Mm.
with our service providers. That is
Mm.
actually something that we only are able to provide our
Mm,
relationship with another human being. So that's how we want technology to be implemented, to speed up processes, to do everything that we as humans are going to always be limited, right? Because,
yeah.
the machine is going to be able to do it 100 times faster than us, but that's what we want to do. And, be able to provide more efficient and more accurate scope of works, to our clients, to our providers. They don't have the time to do that. They don't have
Mm,
the resources to create a whole scope of work of a project. They said, this is how much it's going to cost, and I'm going to be there this day, and it's going to take you 3 days, right?
yeah, yeah,
They're not
yeah.
going to be able to come up with a huge and fancy scope of work. But then the
Yeah.
scope of work is needed, because if you don't know
Yes.
what you're doing, then, it's just a whole mess if things are not clear from the beginning. So that's
Mm,
what we're doing. We're helping them, not to have to worry on thinking of things that actually AI can do. But then they're
mm,
very good at doing the work. They're very
mm,
good at doing the job in the field. And that's what we want to do. I guess that's one other challenge that we are taking on, is that we want maintenance in general, cleaning,
mm,
painting, all of the maintenance tasks and jobs to be dignified. We want our service providers to understand that eventually nobody is going to do those, that nobody is going to want to do these jobs. And technology are not going to be able to clean a unit the way that a person is. It's going to take years and years, unless
oh, yes. Many years.
unless structurally the homes and the units are built different, so that way a machine can clean them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's got to be different in all aspects for a technology to replace a human, or doing a maintenance or doing a repair. So we want our service providers to feel proud of what they're
Mm,
doing, and
mm,
to bring new generations into this world, because it's going to be the industry that nobody is going to be willing to do, but it's going to be the one that everybody's going to need. And
yes.
that's where we're going to be. We're going to
Yeah.
be with them, and we're going to build it as a very proud industry to be part of.
Sounds amazing. And Angelica, I want to hear, what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone watching this who wants to become an entrepreneur? It could be something that you learned from your journey. It could be anything really. But to any aspiring entrepreneur out there, what would you tell them?
There will be so many
I can
because
imagine.
depending of the phase that you are, if you're just
Yeah.
studying, like I said before, just stick with the reason, the purpose, the passion. Stick with one thing, and just
Mm,
make that the fuel that keeps you
mm,
waking up every day. Stick with it, and things are gonna open up, and you're going to see results and other things, and your dream is going to evolve, right?
mm,
And if you are in a phase when you already have some clients, you're not big enough there yet, but you have an established business, clients, and cash flow, just start investing in yourself. Invest in
mm,
becoming your CEO, the best CEO that your company can have. Invest on learning your numbers. That's one thing that
mm,
we didn't know, and we made so many mistakes. Now I can understand all my financials. Like, I can just see what is going on by just looking at one page. I didn't know that because I don't have the background. And,
mm,
invest in yourself, become an executive, what it is to be a CEO, what it is to be a COO, start looking to those and behave and learn from what it is that you have to become. That is
mm,
in your that phase. And in general, a general advice, I will say, always do the right thing, no matter what, no matter how, no matter what it takes, no matter
very
anything.
important.
Always do the right thing. Never let
Mm,
money be before your values. Have
mm,
values, have a very strong values that you are attached to, because it becomes harder when it becomes, those times when there's no light. You may make a lot of mistakes because you don't have a path that you have to follow, right?
mm,
So when those dark decisions you have to make and dark days come, it doesn't matter what it is. You know that you have to make the right decision and do what is
yeah.
correct. It'll be easier for
Yes.
you to make decisions when you know this of this. Well, what is the right thing to do? Then you're just gonna lean into that, and it's gonna be easier to make hard decisions because you
Mm,
know what is the right thing to do always
mm,
if you have that strong values as I guess the force that you're always gonna be tied to, that you're gonna hold on to, because those are the only ones that are always gonna give you light in the
mm,
darkest moments.
That's great advice. And what would you say, what does it take to succeed? My final question to you, Angelica, today. What does it take to succeed?
Well, what does it take to succeed? I guess believe in your dreams and always, I guess, when you do the things beyond yourself,
Mm,
that's what it takes to succeed. Because when you're always doing things for yourself, there is a limit. But when you do it
mm,
for others, things are going to happen because it's not about you, it's about others.
mm,
So I'm not the CEO of Essencia just because I am Angelica Bermudez, the CEO of Essencia. No, it's because I represent and I have a big responsibility for everybody that is behind me. So
mm.
that's what it takes to succeed. Just always look out for others and do it for others than for yourself.
Amazing. I want to thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Darren. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor again for being here and sharing my story.
It was a pleasure having you. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.